Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming, and thank you to, we have a lot of people on Zoom, and we'll fix the audio. But welcome, thank you so much. I'm not going to talk for very long because I want to spend all of our time hearing from our panelists. But I'm Tara, I'm one of the folks helping with this grant. Thanks. And our focus is really on faculty, the needs of faculty to support and mentor our neurodivergent students. We know that you all do so much to work with students and have so many things competing for your time and energy, and that it's helpful to shine a little bit of a spotlight on the experiences of our students. So we're going to hear from both current and former students at Duke, and we'll have time at the end for questions. And if you're able to stay till the end, there are 2 evaluations that we'll ask you to do, one of this event, and the other one is if you are going to get RCR credit, I need you to sign in for that at the end of the event. So we'll share those links at the end. But Sam Branson is going to be our moderator for the panel, so I'll ask him to come up along with our 3 panelists, and we'll get started.
Hi everyone. Is this microphone working? Okay, great. So hi, I'm Sam. I'm really excited to be asking our panelists questions, and it's great to see everyone here as well. I think I'll just start by quickly introducing myself before we get into the questions. I am autistic. I'm also the parent of an autistic child, and I did my PhD in physics at Duke, so I have a little bit of experience being an autistic student, but currently have switched to autism research because I'm really excited about learning about autistic individuals and how we can promote quality of life. So I'm especially excited about this panel and how we can hear the experiences of our students at Duke. So for each question, we'll just go around kind of sequentially and hear from our panelists. So I'll start by just asking if you all would be willing to introduce yourself. Feel free to share your name, major, hometown, anything that you'd like to share about yourself.
Hi, my name is Jaden Cleary. I'm a senior in the Trinity program. I'm doing a program 2, and it is called Digital Platform Design, Accessible User Experience. I'm also someone who works with Kimberly Blackshear to run and plan events for the clubhouse for neurodiverse students on campus.
Hey, testing. Yeah, cool. I'm Alex Wynn, and I graduated last year from Eden, North Carolina, and my major was, it was also a program too, called it Mind, Science, Neurocognitive Dynamics, and Artificial Intelligence, and I don't really know what else to share. I'm glad to be here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me and also for all the audience who are here today. My name is Navya. I'm a second-year master's student. I'm studying engineering management at Pratt School. I came to the US, I think, a year ago, a little over a year ago in August 2022. And over the past 1 year, I've discovered a lot of things, both personally and professionally, and I'm here to share some insights that I hope will be helpful to all of you.
Thank you all for introducing yourself. So our our first question about your experiences are, if you're comfortable sharing, what resources on campus related to neurodiversity or mental health or other supports did you know about when you first arrived at Duke or later on? And feel free to share what resources you found helpful and when and how you learned about them. So if we could start with Jaden again.
So, coming into Duke, I really didn't know anything about neurodiverse resources on campus. It was the pandemic year, so coming in, everybody was just online, pretty isolated. But my sophomore year, once things started opening up again, I met an autistic senior through Duke Disability Alliance. They were promoting the clubhouse and an event they were having. And through her and Kimberly Blackshear, I was able to find out about the clubhouse and become involved in that. And that has been a great resource for getting to meet other neurodiverse, divergent students on campus and getting to form a community with them through kind of low pressure events.
Cool, yeah. So in my case, I originally matriculated to Duke in 2008. And I ended up taking a very long medical leave between then and I believe 2019. I did not know that so I'm autistic, I have ADHD, and also issues around, I believe the formal classification would be substance use disorder. So all these different things, and I didn't really know any of that the first time around. I don't even know how many of these resources were there back then. Anyway, since coming back though, for me, the resources that have really stood out have been Duke Reach, and in particular, there was the person that I guess my contact person or what have you there, was really, really helpful in navigating a lot of the administrative complexities of Duke. And then also SDAO, that was huge for me. Yeah, again, there was a point person there who helped me navigate the broader and more complex system. So I think, oh yeah, and then the clubhouse, like Jaden mentioned as well. That was really neat too, in seeing, right, like, hey, I'm not like, I don't know, it's like alone at a lateral level. Like, it was nice to know, like, I'm vertically supported, right, by administration and so on, but also that there's like a community beginning to coalesce around this among the students. So yeah, I think that's what I'd like to share.
So I'm an international student, so I have a very lengthy response to this question. So I did prepare myself for all the questions, but here goes. So when I first arrived here, I was already informed by the Pratt School, admissions group or whatever, that about the Duke caps and the timely care. However, I had zero information about accommodations. I did not even know what accommodations even are or that they existed in the US. I knew nothing about neurodivergence, nor did I have any list of resources that were available at Duke or even around that whole topic. So after a few months of being here, I still had zero information about accommodations, and again, zero information about neurodivergent support at Duke until one of my professors told me about accommodations, because I had built a close relationship with this person, and she knew how I worked, when I worked best, or what I struggled with, etc. So when she told me that I could take her final exam on with extended time and in a separate room, I was thinking that she was giving me special treatment, and I did not know that I could apply for this accommodation. And then she directed me to the DMS, the Disability Management System. And that's how I learned about this whole thing. And I was so surprised. I was just blown away because I wish I had this back in my old institution. I did not even know that this was possible and that I needed it. So that so yeah, as an international student, I did now know that about the ADA and how accommodations are given, etc., or how the different types of accommodations and how I could apply for them. Um, and so I could understand it or at least have a list of resources. Coming to the ND, the neurodivergent resources part, I had again zero idea about any groups or clubs. I did not even know how to find one. I reached out to my students coordinator and other people uh, who helped the Pratt Masters students with student affairs, but they had no idea. They had no leads. They did not know where to direct me. That's how I stumbled upon I did go and search in the Duke groups and I could find absolutely nothing there. So I thought I was really alone and that I could not relate to anybody on various levels, being an international student or even somebody who um, was very new to this information. I did not have anybody to relate to. Luckily, I found the Duke Neurodiversity website, and honestly, just looking at it, I knew that it was a very inactive group, and but I still went forward and I contacted Dr. Dara and whatever email IDs were there on the website, and that's how I met them. So that's my experience with the whole resources at Duke. Yeah.
Thank you all. So the next question is kind of building off of that, but what resources do you wish were available to you or that could be created? And these could be formal resources or just more informal social resources, just anything that you wish was available to support you.
I wished that during orientation we had learned a little more about the various resources and accommodations and things like, you know, neurodiversity at Duke in general, as well as just a space where we knew that students could go to. Like now we have the disability cultural space in the Bryan Center. Just hearing about that would have been nice because kind of like Navia, I didn't really know much or didn't even have the vocabulary to know what I could look for and what others were experiencing that I could be a part of until through just happenstance with certain classes with certain professors that would mention disability or neurodiversity that could lead me to those resources. So just something maybe outside of the blue book that we get before we matriculate, something that happens during orientation that's very visible to everyone. That would have been nice.
Yeah, I think I want to basically echo what Jaden just said, and it's that I think there are a lot of resources that are available, but knowing about them, right, is maybe not so self-evident, right? And so like it's access to the resources. The resources exist, but access to them, awareness of them, and access to them are. I think that's what I wish I would have known about, right? And I also found out about the neurodiversity situation, I think through perhaps the same student that Jaden mentioned, who I happened to be affiliated with a lab where this student was mentoring me in something, and that's how I found out about it. But had it not been for that, I could very easily have went through like my whole undergraduate without having any idea. And then two is I actually didn't know there was a website about it, and I tend to be better at navigating websites than like human interaction, right? So a website, like awareness of that too, I think would have been really really big for me. Just something that even had like, hey, here are the resources and links to them would have and then I could take it from there, right? But I think, yeah, just the awareness of that is huge. And yeah, I can't think of anything else I wish I would have had that I didn't.
Yeah, I second both Jaden's and Alex's response. I wish I was told during orientation that something like this existed, even though I don't completely understand it. And also accessibility and awareness of whatever resources are existing at Duke. I also have a few examples for which could probably be a more impactful resources, maybe a long-term goal for the bigger Duke or something. So one is definitely the information about accommodations and how Duke gives you the time and space to, you know, support you, whoever you are. I think that information, especially to students like me who come from a different country who do not understand anything here, I feel that if that information goes to those students, it would be very impactful. And another major thing I feel would be self-advocacy groups, which consist of both students and professors, staff, anybody who wants to advocate for themselves. I feel that's very important, mostly because I myself do not know how to navigate 99 out of 100 times, both in personal and professional life. I would like to know if somebody else uses a tip or technique or some kind of strategy. I feel like having that self-advocacy groups or clubs would also be very, very impactful. And I think the last but very, very important resource would be catered career coaching services and also catered mental health resources. I say catered career coach services because even though I do follow or I do understand all the strategies or any kind of help that comes from my own career coach, I'm to follow all their instructions or follow all their strategies. I feel like catering to people who have a different set of challenges would be very helpful. And I've also had a hard time finding mental health services um, that are catered to people like me. So I feel, yeah.
Thank you all for the answers. I'm really excited just to think about the potential of developing these resources. I think it would be wonderful to have more supports like these at Duke. So the next question is, if you're comfortable sharing, what are some barriers related to neurodiversity that you've encountered here at Duke, or just more generally that have in any way impacted your time at Duke?
I think in general, a lot of, it's not encouraged to talk about neurodivergency just in general in society and especially on campus, or talk about how you struggle with things. And so I feel like this is a sentiment that's kind of been echoed with all of us, is that we kind of lucked in to finding a community or finding resources, but it wasn't something that was presented to us. And it took some time to figure that out, whether it was like one semester or a few years. And so, I forgot the question. Could you
Oh,
repeat
well,
it?
you're answering it wonderfully. But I was kind of what barriers related to neurodiversity you've encountered here at Duke.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
So, in general, just feeling like it's a place where we can be open and honest with each other, with faculty, and with students, specifically, even with getting accommodations sometimes. I myself and others have expressed to me that they feel like it's not something to actually be used because it could be a burden on the professor, or if you're asking for an extension, a burden on yourself because that work must still be done in that way, but you're just delaying it and it piles up. So just a barrier has been trying to fit into a space that's built for neurotypical students, and even accommodations and some of the resources still push you into trying to figure out how to have you or let you or allow you or make you act like a neurotypical student when you aren't. So, in general, just removing some of the shame, the stigma surrounding it, and being able to be open and honest and talk about it, and broadening the idea of what accommodations could be so that way they can serve the students as well as allow us to get the full experience and to learn and participate and engage in our classes.
Yeah, so the question is barriers to neurodiversity, right?
Yeah, or just, I guess, any barrier you've experienced that you think neurodivergence might have
Sure.
impacted.
I have a very specific one and then a very general one. The very specific one is I took Chinese, and I took it during COVID. And so when it was on Zoom, I was able to, and this might seem like a very trivial thing, but for me it was very important. I was able to see everyone's mouth moving while they were talking. And that really helped me get the motor control behind some very tough things to pronounce. Then when we came back in person, everyone was wearing masks. And that was really hard for me because I maybe didn't have, I don't know if it's like a synesthesia type thing or whatever, but like just to be able to hear it and reproduce it without seeing the specific movements was really incredibly difficult for me. So that's like the very specific one. And then two is, I think there is a power of example. So and I'm just throwing it out there, I think it would be really powerful if it were known on some level or in some classes that professors, graduate students, TAs, other folks have experiences with neurodiversity or neurodivergence. Because I think it's almost like it's not explicitly framed this way, but almost by omission, it's implicitly framed as all instructors, TAs, etc., are completely neurotypical. And I don't think that's actually the case. Like statistically, I think it's impossible. Right? But yeah, I mean, like had I not really reasoned through the statistics in my head, I never would have known. So I think like there's a power to example, or yeah, identification or example, seeing others be perhaps comfortable with themselves in that way. That's always helped me to be comfortable with myself in that way. Yeah, so I think that could be really helpful. I don't know how it would be operationalized, but I think it's a good idea.
I'm still thinking about the statistics comment. So, yeah, barriers to neurodiversity at Duke. So, I feel the problem, like even why we are here today, I think the problem is people assume with little knowledge. I think that's the whole problem. Otherwise, we are fine as humans. So, yeah, so many assumptions, but little knowledge. I think that's where there is a fear of approaching instructors with any of your struggles or issues because you minimize it for yourself before even thinking about speaking up, I feel. And another thing is student teams is where I faced a lot of the opposite of psychological safety. So again, to remind you, I come from a professional grad department, right? So we, I really have no experience with the undergrad classrooms here, but at grad school, when you are in a professional program, there is this culture of giving and receiving feedback. There's also, I feel, a prerequisite sort of a thing where you know that you're going to be in teams throughout the semester in all classes, and very few professors talk about how to be in a team or how to lead your team. There is absolutely very little information about psychological safety and how it's important in any team. Sorry about that. Very few classes give us this information, but every team needs to know this. that. And I do have a personal example that I wanted to share. So, finding your peers, and again, peers are somebody who care about the same things that you do. Not everybody around you is your peer. So finding peers has been very, very difficult, and that's an understatement. People do not accommodate you if you have different issues or if you have different struggles. For example, a peer told me that I should make more eye contact when in fact they knew nothing about me. Again, it's it's a it's a it's a professional school, and you have this culture of giving feedback because you care about everybody's growth, right? So a peer gave me this harmful advice which would have been helpful if I was not me. So it may have been helpful advice to somebody else, but it wasn't. And I've also been asked to talk loudly, and I was denied uh, I was denied a mic, and I was told to talk louder in a lot of classes. And if you are a creature of habit, and if you want to sit, let's say, in the same seat in every class, that rarely happens, and very few of my professors really understand that I have this habit, and I need to sit in a particular seat, right? And that's a very, very tiny thing. I don't know. It's a very tiny thing, but it's so important to me. Very few of my instructors understand this. And another example, I'm giving you more examples so that you can be more open, and you can be more observant of your own um, classrooms, I guess. So a teammate told me that I'm too nice, and that they will change me from being nice to being very cruel, because otherwise I wouldn't survive. Again, she was my teammate. We were just given teams. I cannot imagine or why or how she could say that, but I felt safe enough to go up to my professor and say, "Hey, you've given me this teammate, and this is how they've introduced themselves." And I just wanted to give the professor that data and how I felt about it, and just make sure that she knows that this is not a psychologically safe student team. So those are very few of the many examples um, in regards to the barriers to me being myself. So
Yeah, thank you all so much for your answers. And you also all sort of gave great suggestions for what was going to be the next question, which is what to do, what you wish had been done differently. So I guess I'll actually skip to asking if you have any examples of a positive classroom experience or just a positive peer interaction or any kind of supportive interaction you've experienced at Duke and what made it positive.
I think something that I found very positive in some classes is when a professor pre-accommodates students. So I think it's like evaluating what's necessary to meet the objectives of the class in a way that's going to make everyone feel good. So for example, just telling everyone, like, if you need to get up and walk outside of the room, feel free to do that. If just giving us mental health days off the bat, no questions asked. Because I think specifically with the way that it can be embarrassing almost to ask for accommodations, and then also you can kind of put yourself out there if you do receive accommodations. So this is something I would see a lot, especially in high school, for example, is we were told like, oh, everyone has to take handwritten notes. You have to take handwritten notes unless you have an accommodation for otherwise. So then anyone you would see typing or not taking handwritten notes, you immediately knew that there was a reason for that. And so almost like outing students in that way can feel very uncomfortable. And in general, like questioning if there is an exam in class, like, is there a way we can have it to where everyone has time and a half or has enough time to complete it thoroughly to where no one needs that accommodation, because coming into Duke, I've experienced, and I know a lot of my peers have experienced, not either A, not having accommodations, or B, not knowing they needed them. And so it's not fun to have a few semesters where you're struggling and you don't know why. It's until you can get those accommodations. So just being able to come in and, like Alex was saying, have when professors tell me themselves, like, oh, I struggle in this way, I'm neurodivergent this way, I'm disabled in this way, just opening up, making it feel more comfortable, and like it's a space that's meant for us, and encouraging me as a student to figure out how to get my needs met and how to get the best possible experience out of the course. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Jaden, and also Tyler for moderating this whole thing. That's awesome. And also Navia for sharing. I try to practice more gratitudes. Having the same spot in each class, I get that. I just wanted to say that. I really get that. Sort of as opposed to should, because language, if then language, I think is helpful. Oh, you should make eye contact and talk louder because da 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 da, right? I don't know if that's as helpful as if the volume was higher, then be able to hear better or something. And I don't know why a microphone would be denied, but anyway, I think. Anyway, that's those are my opinions. I don't know why, but for me, changing something from normative to positive language can be really helpful, right? Because it's not value judgment or a moral judgment, right? Oh, you ought to be this way because the way you are is bad. It's just from a very almost, I don't know how, a more objective perspective. Anyway, for me, that can be really helpful because it can take the sting out of things to some extent. And then also the matter of factness. So I think there's two complementary errors, right? And one would be to under the extreme example is no one gets accommodations for anything, and then the other extreme is only the people who are in this very differentiated category should use laptops, and you shall all sit over here with the laptop people. That, it's very extreme. So there's something, I think, to mentioning it, but not artificially inflating it into a huger deal than it actually is, right? There's something to be said for letting a thing be what it is. I really like that preemptive thing of, hey, if anyone needs to get up and walk out. Actually, thinking back, there was a class where that happened for me, and I used that accommodation to in more than one instance that actually turned out to be really beneficial. I think thinking back on it too, there was this concern in my head of what will my classmates think of me, and it's oh, well, it has already been preempted or announced by the instructor. So I think that I can't really think of anything else.
So the question was about positive experiences. All the positive experiences where I felt I seen and heard, they all tie up to just one professor, just one classroom. I wish there were more instances or more professors I could think about when I think about this question. So it's the same instructor who directed me to the DMS and helped me learn about accommodations. They did not lead me to any neurodivergence or any kind of topics that I didn't talk about. But I had the best experience learning in this classroom. I sometimes feel I'm just very lucky to have this person as my instructor because she really, really cared. She really cared. That's all she did. She really cared. Um, I'll give you several examples, all that I could think of. I didn't note them down because they are a million examples. Um, but so I did talk about sitting in the same place. Let me also talk about sitting in the front of the classroom. It's very important for me. Otherwise, I will just not exist. I've had numerous experiences where the instructor will not let me sit in the same place or in the front of the classroom because everybody else also should get a chance or whatever. I absolutely dread anything beyond the first two rows of the classroom. I will not listen to the class. I cannot pay attention no matter how much I like the subject. This is my personal experience. So she just noticed it, she observed it, she cares about every student that sits in her classroom, which I think is a major thing, but it's not impossible. She noticed so many things about me. She noticed that I do not raise my hand in class to talk, even though I have an answer. So she just would, when I would walk into the classroom, she would ask, "Hey, we want you to speak. We want you to participate because we like listening to you. I will give the mic, and you can just read whatever information is there on the slide. That's all you need to do." I felt like, wow, okay. I wish somebody else also did this. So I would just, she would just hand me the mic and do this, like give me, give me a warning that hey, I'm going to ask you to speak this slide, and that's how I got into this whole class participation thing, and that's how I built my own confidence around speaking in class. And um, there was another instance where we had to sit in teams, but my team was seated in the back, and she made sure that again, as soon as I walked in class, she said, Navya, your team is going to sit in the back because we want to rotate the classroom. I just wanted to make sure that you're okay with sitting in the back. She had no information, no idea, but she did care enough to ask me that because she knew that I don't know. She noticed a lot of things, and she just cared to ask me that question. That's all I needed. Nothing more. I did not need a golden chair. So yeah, a lot of positive experiences in her class, and not just me, but I do observe how she handles other students who may just be shy or introverted, or she handles them with so much like grace, still bringing them back into the class or into the subject matter. So that's all I think we need. We just need to care, and we don't have to do anything else, I feel. Yeah.
Thank you so much all for the answers. I really like this question because it's, yeah, Alex.
I'm sorry, I didn't answer the actual question. Can I
Oh.
have like a minute now?
Yeah,
I just
of course.
realized.
I was just going to say this is my favorite question to hear about positive experiences, so please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I realized what the actual question was. I was so like caught up in I have to like say these other things in response to the other thing, and I got completely twisted. So that's
Absolutely.
my fault. Sorry about that. Yeah. For me, a lot of my positive experiences had to do with one-on-one conversations with professors, where I knew I wasn't under any pressure. So there's really, I think, something to be said for that. At least in my case, I believe I had to send an email for the accommodations I got. I had to email the professor. And first off, I had absolutely no idea what to say in that email. And I had the person who was my contact at SDO help me, I believe, craft those emails. And that was certainly the first time through. So that was really important. And then I can think to a few conversations with professors where it wasn't just a lack of non-acceptance, right? It was the presence, an affirming presence of like the presence of acceptance, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, and this is a very, normal thing. Lots of students that do get accommodations, and like, absolutely, it's all good. And I don't know why, but I think I was like very nervous uh, to use the accommodations that I had. Like I don't know why, but whether it was some kind of like I don't know what the block was, but anyway, the presence of positive acceptance in one-on-one interactions with professors for me usually sparked off by those emails in some instances. That's been really huge.
Thank you all. So the last question we had is just whether you had any additional thoughts or advice for instructors that you'd like to share.
Yeah, one thing that I would say, I'll taking it from another disabled student, not neurodivergent, but we were talking earlier this semester, and she was saying how it feels like sometimes disability or difference feels like it can be criminalized, especially in the classroom. So just making sure that, like, like Alex was saying, it does not feel great to always ask for accommodations, and I dread sending that little email, and if I don't think I'll use it for a class, I won't send it for that class. And I try my hardest not to use them ever, just because it can feel bad, or you're told by someone on campus, like, oh, professors hate that accommodation, don't use it. So just know that as students we are trying, and that there's a reason, and that I cannot think of many people at all, if any, who use their accommodations or their difference or their struggles to, like, get out of work, or to, yeah, just have unnecessary benefits, and that even if someone doesn't seem or appear like they need something, it is helpful. So just in general, it is a struggle on the students' end to be at this school with these struggles and to advocate for ourselves. So that not just a lack of, non-acceptance, but actively showing that you care, and that you can help us get what we need, is something that's very much appreciated, and it makes the classes more enjoyable. It makes my time at Duke more enjoyable, and I think it's something that a lot of faculty do not do at this campus, and a lot of students definitely feel that lack.
Right on. Yeah, thanks, Jaden. And yeah, okay, so it's just any extra pieces of information there, right? I use all of my accommodations like to the full extent, like every time, just because it was easier for me to just be in the habit of like I'm always going to use all of them. That way, I didn't have to think about it, and that was just. I don't know, it short-circuited the decision for me. I get stuck in analysis paralysis super easy. And yeah, the really cool thing for me about the accommodations, I think any professor, instructor loves, I mean, like, why are you in this field, right? Is there's something about the subject that you love that makes you come alive, right? And for me, there are a lot of classes I had where the subject matter was the same way, and it was in using these accommodations, it was able to come alive even more. Because if I'm sitting here worrying about some like itch in my leg, and all I can think about is like I need to like go and scratch my leg or stretch my leg or do a jumping jack in the hallway or whatever it is, like it's very hard for me to focus and for that passion to come out. But if I step out in the hallway and do whatever weird thing I want to do and then come back in, like I can be engaged again and focused again. Yeah, so I think like it's important not to lose sight of what all of this is for, right? Which is the learning, right? And it's like these accommodations aren't to give someone like unfair treatment in any way, right? It's to allow that natural joy in the process of the learning experience to emerge. So yeah, that's something I think really important to keep towards front of mind.
I have a very lengthy response, probably 2,000 words, but I'll try to make it short so that it's easy for you to remember. But you can always reach out to me for the whole answer. So I feel so I may sound cheesy, but teaching is equal to, I mean, you're doing God's work because you do not know how much a student's life can change by something small or big that you do in class. I wish I was a teacher. I wish I would become a teacher and change lives. But that said, I still think there's room for improvement in this profession. So I would, if you want to take anything away from this whole 15-minute conversation, I would say, please educate yourself and seek professional development in how to make a classroom inclusive. That's all I can say. Again, as I said in my first response, there's a lot of assumptions but very little understanding. That's where everything stems. I think even the fear to approach your instructor, or you minimizing your own struggles, or just anything that is detrimental to personal and both professional growth stems from the fact that there are a lot of assumptions. So I feel educating ourselves, both even me myself, I do not completely understand my own functioning, but I'm still in that process, right? So yeah, that is one key takeaway I would like everyone who's listening to me to take away. And the other major improvement that professors can do is accessibility. I spoke to an accessibility expert at Duke, who's in the upper level management, just 2 days ago, and I was so surprised and shocked that nobody cares. Even in 2023, there's so much inaccessibility, and that was about the whole Duke administration stuff. But then when I look into my classrooms, sometimes I just I cannot understand the flow of ideas in a class. I do not. If I see the PPT slides are so confusing that I spent 2 hours just to make notes, and then I go home and then I spent another 3 hours to understand if I got everything right. So uh, there are a lot of resources, and also probably your own students who want to help you create accessible materials. I feel that's the most important, and your immediate step that you can take. That, and I do have a lot of other points. Let me just quickly see them. Oh yeah, this is also very important. Very specific written explicit instructions would be so helpful. You have no idea. If you could make that provision, again, I feel so guilty because because I sound like I'm requesting, but if there was a provision of like, okay, this is the instruction and you speak in class, but there's also something written somewhere so that people like me can prepare 5,000 words response before walking into class, right? So yeah, written, explicit written non-verbal instructions, we are not going to take it any other way. We just want to understand you. And then accessibility, and also multiple modes of information, of conversation. Some, like Alex was saying, the one-on-one conversations, or just letting, like giving that space and saying, hey, you can either talk to me or you can just write a note and leave it at your desk, and I will, after the whole class ends, I'm just going to walk over to your desk and take that note and then respond to you. I do this with the same professor that I was talking about. So I just write down my notes. Like, I just take a piece of paper, I just write down stuff that I want to ask or say, I just hand it over, and then she comes back with answers. I mean, that is so amazing because it works so well for both of us, right? She does not have to listen to me saying and ah, and then forgetting what I wanted to say, right? So offering multiple modes of conversation, or multiple forms of conversation, would be really helpful. And Yeah, just talk to your students, I guess, and they would have more ideas on how they want to be supported. The same, the way I want to be supported would be probably very, very different from somebody else who uh, who has the same background or whatever. So, yes.
Thank you all again for answering these questions and for being on the panel. I really, really appreciate it. And I just wanted to kind of very, very quickly share a little bit about my own experience as a graduate student with the PhD program, kind of following on what Navia said about how like a good instructor can change lives. I really doubt I would have been able to complete my PhD if the research group I worked for hadn't been so incredibly accommodating. Like I did not know that I was autistic. Believe it or not, when I entered Duke, my instructor pretty quickly picked up that I needed some accommodations and just kind of provided them automatically. Communicated in a very like fair and kind, but also direct way, so that I didn't have to kind of guess whether I was needed to pick up on hints, like read between the lines for certain things. And he was just very accommodating in every aspect with autism, with medical challenges that I had throughout the PhD, and even like towards the end, I came out as a transgender man. So I was like, now I'm autistic, I have medical problems, and now I'm asking you to call me a different name. Like that's a lot to ask. But he was great about all of that, and so that's something I'm very grateful for. And it kind of is a little bit of a case study of how someone, I guess, just even without any formal training, I don't think this person had any specific focus on autism, but just a lot of kindness and I guess curiosity about how we can adapt things for our students could go a long way and could really change someone's life for the better. So I think that's kind of the main portion of our panel, but if we have any time left, we can do a Q&A, but I don't know how we are for time. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. Does anyone have? I see a hand in the back. Yes.
Do you have favorite examples of inclusive assessment?
Oh, do you have favorite examples of inclusive assessments?
Yes. So I love a good open-ended assignment. Yes, specifications on what needs to be completed, but like just ways that instead of saying, oh, if it has to be a paper, could it be an audio recording? I had a class where it was this many minutes of speaking or this many words. So just thinking through what the goal for each assignment, project, whatever, what have you is, the goal for that assessment, why it needs to be assessed, and then thinking, is there different ways that can be completed while doing the same work? And that as students, we're all adults, like we do know how to manage ourselves and figure out what's best for us. And so just with your guidance and help, that's been great.
Cool. I'm just going to say the other two things I wish I would have said. One, educating yourself can go a long way. So just 5 or 10 minutes on Google for a particular diagnosis or what have you, I think there's not going to be any prescriptive one-size-fits-all approach to anything, right? But building the framework in one's mind, you can have an adaptive response to a lot of things. So yeah, I think it's hard to overstate the value of 5 or 10 minutes on Google to learn about something that I haven't learned. It goes a long way. And the other is, this is a very specific thing, but I really like diagrams. There was a professor who taught a class on the brain who drew diagrams of how different areas connected to one another. And that was so huge. Like a lot of words in a book, sure. A picture of the brain, that's good also. But I don't know why, but I wish more classes had conceptual diagrams of the lecture of how different information related to each other. Yeah, that would be really helpful in my case.
Unfortunately, I do not have a response to this question. I can't think of any assessment which I felt was inclusive.
Do we have time for one more question, Tara? You can also like just stay up here after the panel if anyone wants has more informal questions. Yeah, thank you so much again.
We really value your feedback.
Thank you all.
Hello.